right, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Tuesday night live stream for Week 6 of the 2024 fantasy football season. For the next hour plus, we're going to be talking all things related to fantasy football. Of course, many of us have potential questions in regards to, the waiver wire. Later tonight, the waiver wire will run, so if you guys have any questions regarding that, be sure to go ahead and type it in the live chat. If you guys want priority in regards to your questions, you can also send in a super chat. But regardless of how you send in your question, make sure that you include your scoring format, half PPR, full PPR, standard league, doesn't matter. The more context you provide, the easier it'll be for me to answer these questions. Again, as of right now, I left the other room and I saw that my Dodgers were getting absolutely smacked. It does not feel good, but hey, listen, we're going to talk fantasy football. I'm going to forget about the Dodgers getting smacked, and we're going to have a great time here. For those of you joining us, hope you guys are doing well. Hope your day was well. Yes, it's Tuesday, but hey, listen, we're trying to grind through, trying to get closer and closer to that Thursday night football game between the San Francisco 49ers and Seattle Seahawks, and then eventually get our way to the weekend so we can watch some NFL football. Outside of that, hope you guys are doing well. Let's get into answering questions, shall we? The first question of the day had come in from Eric Sanchez. Eric, I found your full message. I know that it originally wasn't attached, but I made sure that I gathered it and we're good to go. So Eric's first question of the day, to begin us off here, begins with the following. He says, hey, Andrew, should I trade Ty Chandler away for Sam Darnold? I have Richardson and Geno Smith. My running backs are currently Kenneth Walker, DeAndre Swift, Brian Robinson Jr., and Kareem Hunt. Unless Aaron Jones potentially misses a significant volume of time, which meaning like he goes to the IR, which he is not going to, that would be the only incentive for you to have kept Chandler. In this circumstance, considering you are, your quarterback position isn't definite with whether or not it's going to be like consistent production out of Richardson or Geno, I don't mind this trade. Getting Darnold eventually, look, you can't play Darnold this week. We don't even know if Anthony Richardson's playing this week. You'll probably have to be forced to play Geno on Thursday unless you want to drop Geno, pick up a Daniel Jones, play him against Cincinnati, and then next week drop Daniel Jones and roll with Darnold and Richardson for the remainder of the season. But ultimately, I don't mind this overall trade, Eric. Thank you very much for the super. Continuing on, we had a question that came in from Ray C. Ray, thank you very much. Ray says, start Cousins over Allen. PPR, yes or no? Listen, the PPR doesn't matter, right? Because neither of them are making receptions going into the given week. It is Kirktober. When you go ahead, and if you guys, regardless of what website you use, let's say, for example, you travel to Pro Football Reference, okay? If you guys were to do that on your own desktop, you'll find that okay, you know what? Maybe we do this right now. No, maybe not. Okay, either way. Kirk Cousins in the month of October is incredible, okay? I'll go over the exact statistics in our Thursday quarterback episode once I get to go ahead and presenting the rankings as to who I'm going to roll with. I understand that there is a hesitation based on what we have seen out of Josh Allen, the offense as a whole, and the fact that they're also taking on the New York Jets. I'm convinced that Josh Allen was concussed in that game. As soon as he went to the medical tent and they cleared him, quote unquote, I don't know if he was actually cleared. Either way, do I want to play Kirk Cousins against Carolina over Josh Allen? Considering Josh Allen doesn't have that rushing upside that he typically does, I don't mind the idea of Cousins. I don't mind it. Do I love it? No. Listen, if you're going to start benching Allen at any point, trade him. Go get some sort of compensation in return. Thank you very much, Ray. But yeah, I don't mind the idea of playing Cousins, especially considering it is Carolina of all defenses. Football is Life sends in a question. It says, K9, as in Kenneth Walker, K9 and Evans for Nico and Aaron Jones. Maybe, question mark? Look, ultimately, in terms of long-term value, for the remainder of the season, yes, we would like to have Nico and Aaron Jones in comparison to the alternative, but it's not by that big of a margin to where, like, if you make this trade now, you better have a 4-1 record, 5-0. You better be pretty set and in a comfortable position, because if you're going to trade away Kenneth Walker and Evans, who are both healthy, for players who are injured and could potentially re-aggravate said injuries that could potentially make them miss, 2+ weeks, you're making a little bit of a discount to your potential for winning in the next couple weeks. But ultimately, yeah, I don't mind the trade. I honestly, like, in terms of the long term, talking about getting to the fantasy playoffs and the expectation of production there, Nico Collins could very easily finish as wide receiver 1, assuming he stays healthy for the remainder of the year. There's nothing that even says that he misses this week. Juice Vino sends in a question, says, Sup, Drew, you think Fields will lose work to Russ? Okay, if you asked me 3 weeks ago, I'd have said there's no shot. But considering they're on a 2-game slide, or they've lost 2 games, most recently to Indianapolis and, of course, to the Dallas Cowboys, I'm not so convinced that Fields has to be the starter for that team. That being said, I would assume that if the Pittsburgh Steelers felt comfortable enough as an organization with Justin Fields, considering the deal that he's on in comparison to Russ, which again, Russ is an older veteran quarterback, theoretically could provide more in the passing game. But as I see it right now, I think Fields just provides more for the future. Giving him the reps now is actually more valuable to them, so that as they build this organization going forward, I think he is their answer for the future, unless they want to go get someone else. But do I think he'll lose? I mean, again, I don't know what Mike Tomlin wants to do. He never wants to answer questions like directly. He'll always kind of work around it, but or he'll go ahead and he'll hit us with the cut off your eyelids stuff. Those are I love those phrases from Mike Tomlin. That's why he's just like the perfect coach for Pittsburgh. Anyway, do I think he loses work to Russ? If they continue to lose games, yes. Objectively, they will swap him. Thank you. Dragon Slayer says, pick up Tank Dell or Wan'Dale Robinson in a PPR league. I mean, look, at this point, Wan'Dale Robinson he's just better. And I think even once, in fact, like, okay, let's say Nico misses the next couple weeks, Tank should have himself more opportunity, therefore more production. But then once Nico comes back, like, Wan'Dale Robinson is just going to outvalue him. It's just what it is. Like, we didn't anticipate the Giants offense to be this, competent, to be honest. So Wan'Dale Robinson is just the value, going forward. Jay Holly 203 sends in a question. Thank you, Jay Holly. Jay Holly says the following. Says, drop Geno for Cousins? Absolutely, yes. I have London and Anthony Richardson. Yeah, that's perfect. You just roll with Cousins for the entire month of October. Thank you. YG sends in a question. Says, trade Rico and Montgomery for Achane and Debo. Yes, I'd be willing to do that very comfortably. Give me Achane and Debo rest of the season. Need a wide receiver. I'm worried about Achane. Yeah, I mean, look, at this point, the way I see it, going forward, once Tua Tagovailoa returns to the Miami Dolphins offense, assumably, or, we predict, presumably in week 8, Achane will get back to being a normal self. Debo, again, just give him some time. He's still coming off that injury. I think he'll be the better option going forward. You said at the final sentence of your question, you said you need a wide receiver, but you're worried about Achane while Rico could be a winner. As in what winner? Like a league winner? I don't think Rico's a league winner. I don't think so. I mean, in terms of where you drafted him to what kind of production he may have, he's not going to be a top 12 option at running back at any point. So, at this point, I take the deal. OJ Running says, hey, Andrew, drop Chubb and pick up Javonte Williams, Tyrone Tracy, or Tank Bigsby. In order, PPR. Love the consecutive stream streak. Yeah, how many days in a row have we done this? Let's see. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, what is the streak at right now? I just want to pull it up for my own context. So if I go to my live tab, we have live streamed every day since, I want to say actually, I don't even know what these are dated out as. I'd say it's over. Well, it's definitely like 50 days. I think no, it's not 50 days. No. It's getting close to. Somewhere in that range. Probably like almost 40 days in a row. Pretty good streak, though. Let's see here. Especially when you consider, outside of the weekends last season, I did not stream at all. Your boy was very comfortable. He wasn't pushing the boundaries. All right, so to answer this question, first and foremost, the way that I would potentially prioritize these three would be Javonte number 1, probably Bigsby number 2, and then Tracy 3. I want to hope that Tracy could take over Devin Singletary's starting position. I want to hope that is the case. I can't guarantee it. So as of right now, that would be the order. Javonte, Bigsby, and Tracy. Thank you. Moving on to Andy's question. He says, half PPR, Mooney or Wan'Dale Robinson over Shakir rest of season. I mean, you saw it from the offense of the Buffalo Bills. They are in desperate need of Shakir's presence. But yes, I would still rather have Mooney and Wan'Dale Robinson. The offense just doesn't provide enough targets in the direction of Shakir to make him a better option in comparison to your alternative options here. So Mooney and Wan'Dale Robinson are the preferred, Andy. Thank you. Terry R. sends in a question, says, question is in the chat. Okay, Terry, if I can't find it, you are liable. I'm just kidding. Terry says, trade away Kyron for Tyreek Hill and Chase Brown in a full PPR. My team is Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Godwin, Kyron, Gibbs, Kincaid, Connor, Debo, Mostert, Warren, Kirk, Pittman, Conklin, Spears, Ty Chandler. Okay, hear me out. So, once Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua theoretically return in week 7, 8, this offense for the Los Angeles Rams should score significantly more. Should have far more instances. Wow, I bottle popped. Should have far more instances of getting, Kyren Williams into goal line situations. So I think he only gets better in due time. Now, the same thing exists with Tyreek Hill. Is there more risk with Tyreek Hill? Yes, because Tua, again, could get he could get pushed on his ass, whiplash, and it's over. It's done. You've basically just ended your Tyreek Hill value for the remainder of the season. There's a lot of risk implicated in that. But if you're willing to take the risk, if you believe that Chase Brown, as is going to be that RB1 of the Cincinnati Bengals in the next couple weeks here, fully take over the job and really have high sustained value, I don't mind it. But this, again, requires that your team is in a position to where you have a winning record, because you're not going to have Reek this week, the week after, and then maybe even the week after that. So you may be without one of your top players for the next 3 consecutive weeks. If you can survive without them, again, you have A.J. Brown, Godwin, Gibbs, Kincaid, Connor. You've got a lot of studs. Debo. Again, it's probably like a 10-team, 8-team league. You can survive making this deal. I don't think it's a problem, Terry. Thank you. All right, moving on from Terry's question, we have the following. Let's see. After Terry, we have Kyle Strobel. Kyle, hope you're doing well. Says, is Hall doomed? No, I don't. Okay, listen. I've got my opinions about this Jets decision making. Okay, we'll get to that in a moment. Is Hall doomed? What running back would you rather have rest of the season? I mean, there's a lot of running backs that I would rather have rest of the season. Go trade him for Bijan Robinson right now. Honestly. There are many of running backs that have performed at a top tier thus far this season, like a Kamara, like a Derrick Henry, a Saquon Barkley, James Cook, Kyren Williams. I mean, shoot, at this point, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan I'll take, Gibbs I'll take. I mean, those are the names that I'd go after. If you can, you get one of them. Now, the chances are you're not getting any of them, because quite frankly, the Jets look like a dumpster fire. They fired the head coach. I'm sorry, since when did the head coach start calling plays? Anybody? Just me? I don't get it. Somebody needs to explain that one to me, because that makes no fucking sense. I don't know why. Sure, whatever. We want to eliminate Rob Saleh from the picture. Very well. I don't think that solves their issue. Their issue is they cannot function as an offense. I wonder who's responsible for that. Nathaniel Hackett. Anyway, so yes, if there's a possibility where you could get a better running back for Hall, you take the deal. But until then, you have to wait for him to have some sort of semblance of a good performance, then try to ship him off saying, oh, look, he's going to be great for the remainder of the, and then just get rid of him. Thank you. Jay Holly 203 said in a follow-up, says, drop Kate Otten, Njoku, or Taysom Hill. Got to drop one. I mean, look, I think Njoku's going to go back to being injured again, right? He left this last week's game with a knee injury. So if you could, you could theoretically just hold on to him and then drop him and make him go to the out list. If you can't and you have to try to pick somebody up, because so theoretically, let's say, for example, okay, never mind, scratch it. Taysom Hill gets dropped. Yep, Taysom Hill is your, unless Taysom Hill starts playing quarterback this week because Derek Carr is not playing, Taysom Hill is your drop as of right now. Thank you. YG sends in a follow-up, says, what's Monty or Bigsby trade value? Can I get Ayuk? You could certainly get Ayuk for Montgomery. I think you can get more than Ayuk for Montgomery. Listen, again, Montgomery thus far this season, on a per game average in a full PPR, is putting up 17.4 fantasy points per game. He's the number 9 overall back amongst all. I mean, honestly, number 8 actually. In fact, he's number 8 because Joe Mixon hasn't played more than one game, or one full game. So ultimately, we're talking about a top 8 running back. What can you get in exchange for him? Well, a top 8 wide receiver. You can get far more, in my opinion, for David Montgomery. Now, do I believe that David Montgomery in the next couple weeks is going to take a little bit more of a backseat role to Gibbs in his ascension? Yes. But besides that potential, I still think that you should be able to get yourself, a pretty high volume of wide receiver talent. Like Devontae Smith, should be able to come on into the roster pretty easily for a 1-for-1. Now, if you prefer an Ayuk and you believe that Ayuk will get back to being his normal self, then sure. I think that could be a very even trade, 1-for-1, no questions asked. Across the board, I think Mike Evans could very, very easily be implemented as a potential 1-for-1 partner. Same thing with a DK Metcalf, potentially even a Chris Godwin. What's another name that I could throw? Jaden Reed potentially in this circumstance. I'm not so 100% certain about DJ Moore, but something of that caliber. You know what I'm talking about? So that would be the range. Now, as for Bigsby, considering, again, he's coming off of a week in which ETN did get injured. If you can sell high on Bigsby, let's get rid of him. Do it now. At this point, I'm not saying that he's not going to have value. He is. But it's not like ETN's disappearing. So as of right now, if you're in a situation where you can trade Bigsby, and I don't know what you want in exchange, I'm assuming because you mentioned Ayuk, you might want a wide receiver. If we can go out and we can move him for, let me think here. Looking at some names. I mean, Marvin Harrison is such a buy low prospect, but let's see here. Marvin Harrison hasn't played well. Debo hasn't played well. Like, I'm talking about consistently well. Like, not like every single week they're balling out. I think Flowers is on the up, and I mean, like, there's a lot of prospects. But yeah, like the Marvin Harrisons, the Debos, the Zay Flowers, the Olaves. I don't know what, Olave is going to be a little bit sketchy without Carr for a couple weeks here, so maybe don't add them to the list. But those are the kind of names that I'd go after. Theoretically, you could even try to knock on some doors for Devontae Adams if someone's trying to get rid of him if they have a losing record and cannot afford to hold him on roster. Sean K says Pollard or Mixon rest of season. I don't even know if Mixon's healthy. Like, it's bad. Like, let's say, for example, Mixon doesn't play another week here. That's literally 4 weeks off. He might as well have just been put on the IR. I don't know, man. And I don't know what the degree of the injury is to the extent to where, like, can he return and then re-aggravate it and then be out for the rest of the season and require a surgery? Like, that's my issue right now. So for right now, I'm just like, I'm on the Pollard train. Let's just keep that moving. Now, if I got a confirmation, Andrew, he's going to be healthy, he'll play from week 7 through 18, and he'll be good to go, I'd rather have Mixon because of the offense that he's associated with. Let's see here. Casper says, pick 2.5 PPR. These are Holtz, Downs, Juju, Quentin Johnston, Colbert. Yeah, I'd rather just have, I mean, look, as of right now, the way that these offenses function, I'd rather just have like in a half PPR, Juju Smith probably just to make sure if there's any sort of chance that he could be like the ascending value in that offense. I'd take the risk on that. I'd get rid of Downs because, again, Joe Flacco's not the starter every week. And then between Quentin Johnston and Tolbert, I could be convinced, like if it was a full PPR, I'd say, yeah, let's just automatically take Tolbert. But because of the potential for touchdown upside on a more consistent basis from Quentin Johnston, he's a definite like high upside, low floor kind of player if he doesn't score. But that's probably the second half of that in a half PPR. Ethan sends in a question. Thank you, Ethan. He says, pick up Dowdle or Chase Brown. I have Moss. Yeah, you should probably pick up Chase Brown in order to kind of ensure that you have the entire backfield of Cincinnati secured. Also, I prefer, even if you didn't have Zach Moss in this circumstance, I'd rather just have Chase Brown because I just don't believe that Dowdle will get enough premier receiving utilization within the offense to be a consistent option in comparison. Trife sends in a question. Says, hey, Andrew, a couple questions in the chat. Thanks, Go. Yeah, no problem. Let me see if I can find them. Trife, I don't see anything in the live chat. Maybe I have to update it, but yeah, nothing in the live chat. Can you do me a favor and just retype it, copy, paste it? Thank you. Okay, until Trife sends those in, let's go ahead and continue on. B-Dub sends in a question. Bigsby or Myers on the waivers? Got good running backs already. Yep, then you go with Myers, 100%. Look, unless you're going to pick up Bigsby and then ship him off for somebody that's better than Myers, which honestly I doubt that you'll be able to find anything that is better than Myers. Again, Myers is the number 1 of the Raiders for the remainder of the season. He's going to be a top 36 wide receiver. He needs to be rostered, and he would be the preferred out of the two. Assuming, yeah, of course, you got good running backs, and picking up Bigsby wouldn't lead to a trade when you can get something better than him. Thank you. Bed Bosch says half PPR redraft. Ayuk or Kupp? I'd rather have Kupp, personally. I think the offense is a little bit sharper. I mean, again, just hear me out. Listen, when the leftovers, okay, and again, I refer to them as the leftovers. When Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, Demarcus Robinson are actually all fantasy relevant, okay, because of the efforts of Stafford and Sean McVay. That just goes to show just how valuable Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua will effectively be once they're healthy and back in the lineup. I mean, just let me go pull up the stats really quickly, just so we have a reference point here. So, week 5 wide receivers for the Rams, okay? Whittington, 15.9. Tutu Atwell, 12.5. And Demarcus Robinson, 11.8. In a full PPR, all 3 wide receivers were double-digit producers. Ridiculous. Let's go to week 4 really quickly, just so we can effectively continue this conversation. Tutu Atwell and Jordan Whittington, each of them 12.2 fantasy points in the given week. Okay, let's go to week 3. Let's see how they did in week 3. All right. Tutu Atwell, 13.3 fantasy points. Like, the fact that there is still some semblance of actual effective offense from the receiving core. I mean, Kupp is going to come back and just, How is he not going to put up 17 points a week? How? He can't. I mean, it's impossible. It's Cup. Like it's set in stone. Like that is Matthew Stafford's best friend. He will get the targets. Thank you for the question. All right, John S. had sent something into the chat. We'll go try to find John S.'s question as well without hopefully getting lost. Trife had sent in his question, so we'll get to Trife really quickly. He says, I'm 2-8 in 8th place with the third most points for, okay, but most points against. All right, so you just had a pretty bad luck streak going forward. How do I turn it around? I have Anthony Richardson in Fields. I have JT and Sermon. I have Montgomery. I have Javonte, Ford, Nico Collins injured, Zay Flowers, Jacoby Myers, Tutu Atwell, Puka Nacua, and Adam Thielen on the IR. I have McBride and Conklin as my tight ends. Also got offered Deontay Johnson and Pollard for JT. Do I take or do I hold? Listen, I don't want Deontay Johnson. I've been the one that's been preaching to trade away Deontay Johnson, so you hold in that scenario. As for the semblance of your roster, I mean, again, once your quarterbacks are healthy, well, once Anthony Richardson's healthy, then you can kind of figure out what you're going to do at quarterback. But otherwise, you're just starting Fields every game henceforth. JT Sermon, you keep. Montgomery, you keep. Javonte's a solid kind of like flexible RB3 or can fill in case of potential injury, bye week, etc. Nico's solid. Again, I'm not trying to move him because I don't think that the injury is as serious. Once you get Puka back by week 8, you should be fine. I mean, honestly, look at this. It sounds like based on your roster, I mean, looking at it across the board, I don't think you have a bad team. I think your biggest issue is the fact that you had the most points against, which unfortunately, if you had played other teams in those given weeks, you'd probably be 4-1 rather, right? So I'm thinking you kind of just don't have to move anything. You can theoretically try to, move Conklin if you don't want him on your roster, but outside of that, I'm not really looking to try to move any of these players at the moment. Thank you, Trev. All right, John S., let's see where your question went. John S., don't see anything specifically in the live chat. Control F3. Yeah. John, do me a favor. Type in the live chat once you get a chance to do so. It'd be greatly appreciated. I think my YouTube just crashed. Yeah. The YouTube live chat just crashes my Google Chrome every time I try to find your guys' names. So yeah, the question's gone. So if you can do me a favor, John, just type in the live chat so I can get to it. Thanks, man. All right, so moving on until that question comes through, we have Nick L. Nick, what's up? Says, yo, in a PPR, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. I have a 3-2 record currently. Kyler's my quarterback with Gibbs Mason at running back, Marvin Harrison, and Drake London, Laporta, Reed. Okay, cool. Pretty good-looking team here. McCaffrey, very well. Braylon Allen, Singletary, Moss, Terry McLaurin, Zay Flowers, Higgins. Okay, great. I mean, look, at this point, okay, so here's my immediate suggestion. You do nothing at all, and you just hold. Like, you could, now, that's my immediate suggestion. The secondary suggestion would be you take T. Higgins and Terry McLaurin, and you go get Malik Neighbors, or you go get Jamar Chase, go get CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra. You go give 2 stud wide receivers. You can give Terry Zay, Terry Higgins, Zay, 2 of the 3. Doesn't matter. Go get a top-tier wide receiver. Go get A.J. Brown. Because honestly, at this point, you can't start 6 wide receivers in this league. It's a 1 flex league, 2 wide receiver. So you're going and you're potentially making a move of that caliber. I mean, honestly, if they want to take Marvin Harrison and like Higgins and they're going to give you Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'd take that deal too. I don't even care. Because honestly, that would still leave you with Terry McLaurin to rotate, Zay Flowers to rotate, and you'd made a better overall impact on your starting lineup because you're not going to remove London or Reed, right? So that's my immediate suggestion. Otherwise, I don't think running back needs to move. You could theoretically try to go get another running back, but the way that I see it, the way that I have it ranked, like Gibbs and Mason or Gibbs and McCaffrey, if that ends up being the case, is going to be your guys every single week for the rest of the season. And considering it's a PPR, I'd like to have a wide receiver in that flex spot. Thank you, Nick. Sim sends in a question. Thank you, generous. Very generous for you, Sim. Says, thanks for the advice on Sunday. I traded Aaron Jones for Dobbins and ETN now. My teams are Anthony Richardson, Etienne, Dobbins, Amon-Ra, Marvin Harrison, Goddard, and Higgins with Kupp on the bench, which is eventually coming back. Should I package a running back and a wide receiver for a better running back? Yeah, you probably should. I mean, look, if you're going to package a running back and a wide receiver, you're taking Etienne along with most likely Higgins, and you're shipping them off because you know that you're going to get back Kupp, so you'll have Amon-Ra, Marvin Harrison, and Kupp for the remainder of the season as your 2 wide receivers in your flex. So you would take Etienne and Higgins and just try to go get a significant upgrade. As for who, I mean, it depends on what team needs the wide receiver in your league, like who is desperate for that wide receiver kind of upgrade. But I mean, at this point, I'm not even joking. I'd go after the Jonathan Taylor manager. I'd go after Kyron Williams if you could somehow swindle that away from them. I doubt it though, but I'd definitely give it a shot. I'd go after Josh Jacobs still. Honestly, I'd go after Bijan Robinson. That'd be fun. So go after the top tier players. I'd even consider going after Achane legitimately, because at this point, Kenneth Walker as well, all of them. Just go after the murderer's row of running backs, the actual top 12 monsters. That's what we want. Thank you. All right, let me see if John S. has sent in a question. John S. John says, bench is Keenan Allen, Braylon Allen, Charbonnet, Kmet, Leggett, and Pollard. Okay. I have Kenneth Walker and Laporta starting. I have Sharps and Kmet for my handcuffs. Okay, very well. Who should I drop for the Eagles defense? I have the Vikings and don't want to drop them. Yeah, you should not drop the Vikings. You're good to go. Out of those available options, I would drop Leggett. The fact that he was also injured on Sunday doesn't give me much hope in that circumstance. It would be between Leggett and Keenan Allen. Those are the two primary drops there. I would prefer to just drop Leggett considering the injury implication. So I'm okay making that swap. If you want to drop Keenan Allen instead because you feel more confident doing that, then I don't have an issue with it. But those are the two candidates for the drops. Alex sends in a question. Alex Lebenz says, how much fab on Kirk, as in Kirk Cousins, right? I have Geno and I'm starting Kenneth Walker and JSN. Got it. Yeah, you don't want to have too much. I mean, you're pretty much all in technically on the Seahawks, but in terms of the overall fab capacity, I think it's very much so dependent on like where has other quarterbacks gone in your, like how much fab have other quarterbacks gone in your league? Like Sam Darnold, when he was picked up, Justin Fields, when he was picked up, can you go back into the history of your league and see how much they come off the board for? If they were picked up without any cost at all, then you could very easily just spend, like 8 to 10% and very easily just snag them without any concern at all. But otherwise, or maybe even 5%, but I'd compare it to whatever value prospect the other quarterbacks in your league came off the board as in terms of their waiver priority, and then just kind of base it off that, because ultimately it's going to be dependent on who is at a huge necessity for a quarterback. Because, this week the Dolphins have a bye. So again, nobody in your league already has Tua, so someone's already struggling for a quarterback. Someone has Mahomes and now has to go find another one. Someone had Darnold rolling and needs another one. And then nobody had Stafford. So there's probably 3 teams in your league outside of yourself, unless you're one of those teams missing you have Geno, so you may have missed Tua early and then you swap to Geno. There's maybe 2 other teams probably in your league that could go after him. So just figure out what the value of those quarterbacks go for and then kind of slightly outbid that and just roll with that. Fernando Perez says, trade Hurts and Breece Hall for Love and Barkley. Yep, give me Barkley. No questions asked. I'll take it. Thank you. Luis Becerra sends in a question. Thank you, Luis. Says, I'm currently 1-4 in a 12-man full PPR league. I have Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Terry McLaurin, George Pickens, Dalton Kincaid, Chase Brown, Trey Sermon, Addison, Douglas, Hopkins, Cortland Sutton, and my injured reserve consists of Jonathan Brooks. Okay. What should my lineup look like this week? Look, as of right now, so Jonathan Taylor, depending on whether or not he plays, obviously if he's healthy, he plays. All right, he's your RB1. Otherwise, it's Sermon. So it would go like Josh Allen as your QB, Taylor or Sermon at RB1, Bijan at RB2, McLaurin at wide receiver 1. Looking at your available wide receivers, it's clearly just George Pickens as wide receiver 2, Kincaid as tight end, and Chase Brown as your flex. There's Addison's on a bye week. Douglas is not dependable. Hopkins is not dependable. And Cortland Sutton, I don't really particularly like the matchup against the Chargers in this circumstance. So that's your lineup, and that's the way that I go about it. You may be a little bit concerned about Pickens. I wouldn't be. Again, he just a couple weeks ago against Indianapolis had himself a monster performance. Last week obviously didn't see himself enough overall targets, much less overall snaps. I think those numbers will boost in the upcoming performance. Bed Bosch says Mason for Najee Harris and Hunt, or Najee and Lad McConkey. If you don't have McCaffrey, I would like something more than those potential options. But if you can't, then yeah, I'll just take the Najee and Hunt combo. Thank you. A Zerby says, is Garrett Wilson and Shaheed for DK too much? Yes, it is too much. It could be argued that if Devontae Adams does not go to the Jets, that Garrett Wilson and DK Metcalf are the same tier kind of wide receiver. So, and honestly, the way that Shaheed is played, I understand that he's very much so reliant on the deep ball of Derek Carr, but he's kind of just nearly behind them in terms of being that same tier kind of wide receiver in terms of points. Big Cat sends in a question, says, drop Warren, Madison, or Wright for Juju. Yeah, I'm very comfortable dropping Jaylen Warren. Again, he's going to miss another week here. That PCL injury is not something that you quickly return from. So Jaylen Warren's the drop out of the 3. Thank you. We move on to our Gold 9, who says half PPR, Achane plus Kincaid for Breece Hall. Achane plus Kincaid for Breece Hall. Yeah, listen, if you can't afford to wait for Achane's return at a full capacity, then yes, you make the move. That's fine. Thank you. Jesse G says, any early underdog picks? Also, Fields or Goff in a half PPR. Okay, let me think about this. So Goff takes on the Dallas Cowboys secondary, which again could very easily be exploited, while Fields takes on, I'm trying to think, they take on Las Vegas. Oh, man. In like a 4-point per passing touchdown league, I'd probably, yeah. If it's me, I probably end up playing Fields there. I could justify the idea of playing Goff. I just, I think there's just too much of a threat of Montgomery Gibbs' goal line upside in comparison to Najee, who has yet to score a rushing touchdown this season. So I just roll with Fields there. Any early underdog picks? Not one yet, no. Again, I always like to, if you guys are looking at underdog potential pick'ems, if you're going to make an entry, I always like to look at first quarter receiving yards. Again, even though I got clipped at I just took it to the shins on Thursday because Chris Olave had 1 target in the entire first 3 quarters of the game. Pretty unfortunate. When I look at it right now, let me go see. Like first quarter yards, because I know Seattle can't stop the run. Like what is Jordan Mason's first quarter rushing yards? Does he have a number there? Let's see here. You know what? First Q. They don't have first quarter rushing or receiving yards yet. They only have first quarter rushing and receiving touchdowns. So until those first quarter yardage show up, as of right now, I just keep it. I'm not going to touch anything. Like I'll definitely go and I'll try to, there's, like George Kittle first, touchdown. I don't know. DK Metcalf first touchdown. I don't know. Like anytime touchdowns for both those, I don't mind. But as of right now, nothing. I'll definitely mention it on Thursday's video or by the time we get into tomorrow's live stream because I'll probably have put stuff together by then because they're more updated potential plays within the week. Thank you. Moving on to Bruce Cowdery, who says, in a full PPR, please rank. We have Wicks, Shaheed, Mooney, Tolbert, or Wilson. Thanks. I mean, if we're ranking rest of season, because again, I'm assuming, well, is this a rest of season thing? Probably not. This might be just this week. Okay, cool. As of right now, Shaheed without Carr is not a excitable potential play. I don't really feel like I'm excited about the potential of that. So I would just probably pivot in the direction of where I'm playing Mooney number 1, probably between the other alternative options. Like I'd probably go like Mooney, Wicks, Tolbert, Shaheed, Wilson until I know who's starting at quarterback for the Saints. Is that Rattler? And then seeing if Rattler's even good this week before I trust him at a full capacity, with Shaheed. So that'd be the order. Thank you. All right. Zell sends in a question. Says, starting Josh Allen, Bijan Robinson, DeAndre Swift, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, BTJ, Bowers. My bench is Puka, Wan'Dale Robinson, okay, Javonte, Bigsby, Hopkins, Fields. Should I be looking to improve? I mean, look, technically you can always improve. In terms of should you be? I mean, ultimately, look, it is very difficult to improve from what you have, considering you're going to have London, Wilson, BTJ, and Puka at one point, and Wan'Dale Robinson. So theoretically, you could take big picture here. You take Wan'Dale Robinson and Swift and go try to trade for an upgraded running back. You could very easily get away with that. Now, if you think, okay, well, we got upcoming bye weeks here, Andrew. I don't want to throw it away with Puka still being injured and not having, a potential adjusting option to where I can throw in Wan'Dale Robinson going forward, then you just keep it as is. Because honestly, this is a very strong team across the board. And despite the 14-team format, you've built it very well. So that's the only thing that I would theoretically present as an option. Outside of that, you don't move. You're pretty strong. Thank you. Elseway sends in a question. Says, drop Leggett for Tracy, Bigsby, Conkey, or hold. Right, running backs are Montgomery, Connor, Hunt, Pacheco. Okay. CeeDee Lamb, Pittman, and Kirk, and JSN and Mooney are my wide receivers. What trades would you do? I mean, look, at this point, trading Pittman away as fast as possibly can. I mean, for anything. At this point, I just don't want to deal with Anthony Richardson, Pittman. I mean, I hope that I'm wrong and they're actually good together, but at this point, that needs to be moved off your team. Alongside of that, Hunt, Pacheco stays, Connor stays, Montgomery stays, so you don't really move any of those. Between the available options to theoretically pick up, Like if you're going to trade away Pittman and you're going to ask for a wide receiver in return, then you would probably just end up picking up Tracy or Bigsby. I think at this point, if it's a full PPR, in a full PPR, I could justify picking up Tracy over Bigsby, but I'd probably just say for right now, well, are you going to three? Yeah, I mean, you could theoretically use him this week. So yeah, you'd pick up Tracy at running back. That would be your waiver wire pickup, dropping Leggett. And then after which, you would try to move Pittman, maybe even bundle him up with Christian Kirk because Evan Ingram's coming back this week. And that's going to begin to dig into his overall workload within the slot position to the extent to where you try to just go cash in. Like you just send 2 for 1 and go get, I don't know. I mean, at this point, I want Deebo Samuel, and that's what I would suggest. Thank you. RJ says PPR, trade Devontae Smith and Kyler for Hill. I got Chase and Cup. If you're willing to take the risk and you're fully okay with it and you have another quarterback besides Kyler, then fine. But understand that you're giving away a wide receiver that's averaging 17 points per game right now for a wide receiver that is going to effectively give you maybe, 0 this week, 10 the next week after, and then hopefully 20 from there on out. So the upgrade between like Devontae Smith to Hill, is pretty major, especially once Hill gets to a really top capacity of like putting up like 23 points per game or the 30-point bombs that he's always capable of. But definitely a lot of risk on your behalf in this circumstance. If you've got a winning record and you can sustain it, go for it. Otherwise, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Thank you. LOLG says, hey, Andrew, my team is Goff, Richardson, Love, Mason, McCaffrey, Gibbs, Neighbors, Samuel, Downs, Mooney, and Laporta. Should I trade Neighbors for A.J. Brown? Nope. I'm perfectly fine keeping Neighbors there. If you want to make this trade, I'm perfectly fine with it. I don't have an issue. I think it's more of a lateral or horizontal move. I think they're both very much so going to be top 6 wide receivers rest of the season. If you prefer to have one over the other, then you go for it. But currently with A.J. Brown and that hamstring, there's always a possibility of a re-aggravation. I'd rather just stick with the safe side of Neighbors in the 15 targets per game the guy's been getting as of late. So, in a PPR, I'm very comfortable with what you have. Don't think it requires a move. If you want to, you can. And again, it's very much so just a lateral move. They're both going to be very good rest of the season. Thank you. But yeah, I don't think you need to make that kind of trade. Appreciate it. Moving on to Sean K, who says drop one in a PPR. Kirk, Downs, or Worthy, or JSN. I'm dropping Downs there. Thank you. Sim sends in a follow-up. Says PPR. I was just offered Dobbins and Marvin Harrison for Bijan. I was just offered. Okay, so let me go back up to your original question, Sim. So you said... traded that. Your team is Etienne, Dobbins. Okay, so somebody wants your Marvin and Dobbins for Bijan. I'd rather just keep what you have. I think you're giving up a little bit much. Because again, like, unless Bijan shows up and starts putting up 25 points per game, ultimately, which again, he's not going to, I think you, at that point, may be giving up a little bit too much in comparison. I think it makes your team a little bit thin as well. I like the prospect of trading for Bijan, but I'm not willing to give like 2 of my clear and away stud starters. I know Marvin hasn't played like consistently well thus far, but if if you can give them Higgins and Dobbins, then sure, but I'm not going to give Marv. I don't want to give Marv, at least. That's just my perspective on it. Waleed sends in a question, says questions in the chat might be, not sure who to start in the flex. Okay, let me see what you got here. All right, Waleed says, in a 2-quarterback, 8-man league, I have Kenneth Walker. Sorry, no, I have K1 as in Kyler Murray, Jaden Daniels, and my quarterbacks. Okay, so you're good to go there. Bijan, Montgomery, Brian Robinson, Swift, Dowdle. Wide receivers are London, Reed, Garrett, Debo, Pittman, Hill on the bye, and McBride at tight end. 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 flex. Cool. So the 2 running backs that you start this week very clearly are going to be Montgomery and Bijan Robinson. The 2 wide receivers that you're going to start this week, again, with pretty high level of confidence here. The way that I see it, I'm playing Drake London, and I'm probably following. Oh, wow. You've got too many good players. I think that's the issue with this 8-man format. It's probably like if it's me, I'm probably playing London, Reed, Garrett with Bijan, Montgomery, and your 2 quarterbacks and McBride. That's the way that I go about it, Waleed. Which sucks, but those are just your best options. You just have too many good options, man. Thank you. Ninja Jake 209 says, should I trade Hurts and Montgomery for Kirk Cousins and Bijan Robinson? Nope, I'm okay keeping what you have. I think Jalen Hurts is significantly better than Cousins, and even once Bijan begins to really ascend as a player. I don't think it's that much more significant than what Montgomery potentially provides, to the extent to where like you're giving away Jalen Hurts now that he has all of his receivers at a full healthy rate rest of season. Terry R sends in a question, says trade away Connor and Godwin to acquire Bijan. No, you're giving up too much in a full PPR. I'd only do it if I'm playing in a 6-man league. That's it. Thank you. Boiler 2147 says in a 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex format standard league, we have JT Henry, Rashad White as our running backs. Okay, very well. Then backups on the bench. Okay, so you have the handcuffs ready to go. You have Nico Collins, Chris Godwin, T. Higgins, Jaden Reed, along with BTJ. Would you recommend trading a wide receiver and White for a better running back? Yeah, I mean, if you can trade away of the available, right? Like Higgins and BTJ are your movable pieces per se. Like if you're going to move a piece, it's Higgins and Rashad White, and you're going after a running back. Now, if you have to, if someone's like, oh, I want Rashad White and Godwin, and I'll give you Jonathan, thank you very much. I'll give you Bijan, I'll give you Brees, thank you, we'll take it. Anything of that exchange. If you can give away Godwin, Higgins, or BTJ, one of those 3 with White, and get a superior running back, then I'd say absolutely we take the deal. Thank you. And also McCaffrey or even wide receiver 1 like Jefferson. If you can get a wide receiver 1 like Jefferson with some sort of combination of a deal, like if you give Godwin and Higgins away and someone wants to give you back Jefferson, I take it, because at this point, well, actually, you know what? Your depth kind of gets annihilated there. Now that I think about it, no, you wouldn't give away 2 wide receivers. You can only give away 1 wide receiver, 1 running back, and that's it. That is the peak of your overall situation. Don't give away 2 wide receivers. Even if you're getting, even if you get JJ, if you get JJ, then sure. But outside of that, no thank you. 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, and they have to give you back a running back. Thank you. Sean K sends in a question, says pick a defense for this week: Packers, Jets, Bills, or Los Angeles Chargers. As a whole, if I'm looking at it objectively, I'd probably like to play the Bills defense based on Aaron Rodgers and his turnover ability, honestly. Brandon DeCoste says, PPR, need quarterback. I have that's not Aaron. That is Anthony Richardson / Flacco. Trade for who? ? I have AJ, JJ, and JC. I mean, again, at this point, you stick with AR and Flacco. And if one of them is injured and the other one plays, then that's what you go with. If you're getting another quarterback, you're not trading any of your stud wide receivers in order to accomplish that. You would just pick one up off waivers, a la Daniel Jones. Thank you. The S-Box says, drop Jennings for Juju. Yes, thank you. Fernando Perez says, PPR, trade Jalen Hurts, Rashad White for Love and Mixon. You know, that Mixon injury is tough. If you could give me a 100% guarantee that Mixon would be healthy for the remainder of the season, I'd say, yeah, he's going to be a top 15 back minimum, if not better. So then I'd be willing to take the deal. But considering we're not 100% certain, I try to lag on this trade. If you can get more intel in regards to Mixon and, you know, potentially there's more confidence in him playing, if he practices at any sort of capacity tomorrow, I'd make the deal. The professor says, question is below. Thank you. No problem. Let me see if I can find a professor. Nothing in the live chat. No, I don't see anything. Professor, do me a favor and just repeat your question in the live chat. That'd be greatly appreciated because, again, it was not available or currently is not within the most updated chat logs. Thank you. Until then, Ruben says, Allen or Daniels rest of season. What running back would you target? I mean, look, at this point, Jaden Daniels is eventually going to hit a peak of success and then eventually start to have himself rocky performances. It's not like he's going to always be this good. That being said, I mean, Daniels is very difficult for me to pass up on the idea of Daniels rest of season. Very difficult. It's Kafka sends in a question, says, should I trade A.J. Brown / James Cook for Breece Hall and Neighbors? I would categorize that as a lateral move. I would categorize that as a move to where if you prefer one of the groups over the other, then you take it. Otherwise, I think they have very similar production rest of season. Breece Hall's absence of getting receiving upside has pretty much deemed him to being the same value as James Cook, considering James Cook's rushing touchdowns and the frequency of said touchdowns. So at this point, I think it's lateral. I think you don't have to move these pieces. If you prefer to, then that's fine. I don't have an issue with it. Thank you. But I don't feel like, oh, you have to make this move. That's so much of a better deal. Hassan says, what's up, Andrew? Traded McLaurin for Mason. Thoughts? Do you have Christian McCaffrey? If not, then not interested. Thank you. Sorry, but that's just as bleak as it gets. All right, where's Professor's question? The Professor says, in a PPR, I got offered Aaron Jones for Javonte Williams and JMO. Thoughts? Yeah, I'll take Aaron Jones very easily. Give them back whatever they want. That's fine by me. No questions about it. That is a clear and easy trade that you make. Try to pick up, Ty Chandler off of waivers today if you're able to. You don't have to put in a waiver priority or a bid. You might just be able to pick them up after the fact that it rolls at around like 1 a.m. or midnight if you play on Sleeper, 1 a.m., 1:30, something on Yahoo, etc. Moving on to a question that came in from Joshua Lovell, who says, I'm currently 1-4. My wide receiver 1 is Garrett Wilson. I have Zay Flowers and Devontae Smith behind him. Okay, so you're you got pretty solid wide receivers here across the board. You have Breece Hall. Okay, so you double dipped in the Jets offense that has not performed well. Mixon, Akers. Which Jet do I sell first? The first Jet you sell is Garrett Wilson because there's more of an impending doom of the potential of Devontae Adams getting traded to that offense and effectively making Garrett Wilson a lesser option. That's what you would potentially do if you're going to sell one of the two. And also because Garrett Wilson's coming off of such a prominent performance in comparison to Breece Hall, who you'd have to sell for far lower based on his most recent, production of fantasy. Thank you. It's Kafka sends in a follow-up question, says, sorry, I meant Olave and James Cook for Breece Hall and Neighbors. Okay, scratch that. If that is the question, if that is the legitimate trade, you take Breece Hall and Neighbors and you take it immediately. No questions asked. Kiss on the forehead. Thank you very much. Shake their hand. Get the fuck out of there. Take Neighbors and Breece Hall and run to the hills. Thank you. Bed Bosch says, how much fab are we spending on Juju and Tracy? Tracy, not so much. I'd say like at max, like 6 to 8% maybe. If you're super desperate and you have Devin Singletary, you're dropping 15% on it. But if you're not in that scenario, Juju's maybe like a 9 to 12%er. Same thing with, I'd say Tracy's a little bit less because, again, there's always the potential that Singletary comes back and just retakes his job back, unfortunately. But I hope that's not going to be the case. So for right now, that's the way that I see it. Like 9 to 12% for a Juju. At most, maybe 8% for Tracy, unless you have Singletary. Then at that point, you're putting up like 12 to 15%. Thank you. Gio Ortiz says, I'm 2 and 3. I'm in a full PPR. I have Gino, Patty, Breece, Mason, Rico, Braylon Allen, Olave, Deontay Johnson. We have Wicks, we have Jennings, we have JSN, we have Adunze, we have Laporta, we have Kraft. What moves should I make? And should I drop Jennings? Yes. Jennings needs to be dropped. Rashee Rice needs to be dropped. And then after that, in terms of moves that you can theoretically make, I mean, at this point, not having Christian McCaffrey and having Mason, I'd still tell you to go to the Christian McCaffrey manager and try to make a deal there. If that does not occur, then you just hold on to it. You hold on to Breece. You hold on to Rico. Deontay Johnson needs to be sold. Olave could theoretically be sold, but at this point, I don't think anybody's buying him with the injury of Derek Carr. So Deontay Johnson's the immediate sell, and maybe you can pair him up with Rico to try to get something back in return, maybe a 2-for-2. Outside of that, everything kind of has to stay as such because really, a lot of these players aren't putting up like Wicks is coming off of a bum week. Same thing with Deontay. Same thing with Olave. Same thing with Braylon Allen. Same thing with Breece Hall. Same thing with Mason. Same thing with Laporta, Adunze. Like everybody in your team had a dud performance except for Kraft. So you could theoretically take Kraft now that Laporta's off the bye. You take Kraft, you take Deontay Johnson, you take Rico, and you sell them around and see what you can get in exchange. Thank you. Thomas Dabney sent in a question. Nothing attached to it. Let me see if I can find your question, Thomas. Thomas Dab. Nothing from Thomas in the live chat that I can at least see. Yeah, nothing. Thomas, do me a favor, type in the live chat. Thank you, man. All right, after Thomas's question, we move on to a question that came in from Marvin Lewis. Marvin, thank you. Says, standard, I need to pick up a defense and dropping Trey Tucker. Very well. Who should I get? Philly, Buffalo, Vegas, Atlanta, Colts, or Tennessee? Okay, so as of right now, it's... okay. I'd probably feel the most comfortable starting Philly's defense just because I know that Deshaun Watson's a disaster and how well every defense has played against them. Again, the last 4 defenses that have played against the Cleveland Browns have put up over 9 fantasy points, each of them, 9 or more. So I think that's kind of like the easy pick up and play. And they're just coming off of their bye. Now, is Philly functionable for multiple weeks? Let me see here. Eagles schedule. They take on the Giants the week after. That could be, honestly, Daniel Jones is playing well. But that could be a 2-week play in a row if you want to. But as of right now, if I'm just playing one for this week, it's going to be Philly. Gio Ortiz says, any recommendations on who to trade for as well? Yeah, listen, in terms of always, I've said it for the last couple weeks. I'll continue to say it. I'm going after Debo in almost every scenario. I would like him on my team, please and thank you. I'm also in the business of trying to get, if you can, let me look at the wide receivers really quickly. Let's swap this out. If you can somehow, some way, convince somebody, for any reason, for some reason, somehow, some way, this is a Michael Scott quote. Anyway, if you can convince somebody to give you the potential, let's see here, in terms of buy low candidates, like Devontae Smith is who I want. Debo Samuel is who I want. Those are the two that if I can get them on roster, even if you have to pay heavy for them, I don't care. Like, that's who I want rest of the season. That's who I really think is going to be of value. That's what I go after. Now, again, if you're sitting in a 4-1 position, 5-0 team, 3-2, and this week you're taking on a team that has a bye-apocalypse, you go after Tyreek Hill. You go after Devon Achane. Like, that is the approach in this circumstance, you know? 420 Gall says, 12-team PPR, 1 point per rushing, what? Per rushing first down, okay. Got Jalen Hurts, Saquon Kamara, Nico, BTJ Shaheed, Ferguson, Christian Kirk, Keenan Allen. I'm 5-0. Would you make any moves? I mean, look, in a 1 point per first down format, I don't know the value of players in comparison to a regular half PPR, full PPR, because I don't play in this kind of a league. But looking at your team as a whole, just as a whole, there's nothing that you need to improve upon, quite frankly. You've got a stud quarterback and tight end. You got 2 stud top 5 running backs. I mean, ridiculous receivers with Nico, BTJ, and Shaheed. Christian Kirk, in terms of that, flexible kind of move-in option once there's a bye week in the case of an injury. Again, there's nothing you need to move. I think you're pretty good to go. Medina 2197 says, drop Wicks for Bigsby or Tracy. I have Aaron Jones. Yeah, if you're going to need to drop a player in order to pick up a running back and immediately play them, then yeah, you pick up Tracy and you play him this week. Going back to the live chat, I know that Thomas Dabney, I'd asked you to type in the live chat. Hopefully you did. Yes, he did. Okay, so he said, I have a lot of context for this team. Very well. I picked up Hawkinson and put him on my bench. Very well. Do I drop Kyle Pitts when he starts? No. You have to wait and let's see if Hawkinson's even good. He may not be the same player after that ACL, but I'm going to assume he is, but you got to be safe. I have Josh Allen, Jacobs, Hubbard, Neighbors, Chase, Pitts, DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison. Bench consists of Love, Achane, Ayuk, Garrett Wilson, TJ Hawkinson, Kupp, Pacheco. Oh my God, dude. Okay. What do I do when Kupp and Pacheco return? What do you do when Kupp and Pacheco return? Kupp returns next week. So what do you do? To take him off the IR, you got to go make a 2-for-1 trade. That's what you have to do. You got to give 2 good players to get 1 in return. And considering how many good players you already have on roster, it's not going to be easy to accomplish, but you might find someone in your league that has been dealing with a lot of injuries, and you might be able to ship off someone like Hubbard and a potential wide receiver in this circumstance to get back a running back, which is the leading thought as of right now, Thomas. So that's the way that I go about it. For now, I'd say no. Until we get a confirmation. Like, we have to watch Hawkinson. Like, I'm not saying that the week that Hawkinson's active, I'm not playing him. I'm just saying you don't want to drop him just in case. You never know. Because Pitts is someone that you trade henceforth. So you could theoretically take Hubbard, Pitts, and a wide receiver and just shop them around 2-for-1 somebody in order to open up roster spots. Because next week, yes, theoretically, Hawkinson, Kupp both have to come off the IR and you need to open up roster spots. Otherwise, you're going to have to dump some really good players. So look for some upcoming 2-for-1 trades. Even if you're objectively losing them because you're giving up too much, understand that your team is so stacked across the board here that it doesn't matter if you lose these trades. You just need to bring back elite players and open up roster spots. Thank you, Thomas. Moving on to the next question here after Thomas. And okay, let's go back up here. Medina Major Arms says, I'm going to get to a story in a second, but Major reminded me of it. It says, I got Devontae Adams, Lamb, Mason, David Montgomery, Brian Robinson Jr., Mixon, Gino, and Laz, as in Lazard. Is there a question here, Major, that wasn't attached? I'm assuming there's something that's not included here. Major Arms says, I'm in a 12-team PPR league. Drop and grab defense or, okay. Ingram, Richardson, okay, have Adams, Lamb, Wan'Dale Robinson, Lazard, Leggett. Okay, Leggett can be dropped. Kraft, Goddard, Montgomery, mix. Yeah, so you theoretically you drop Leggett in order to open up space, and then after that, to open up even more space, you drop probably either Lazard or Odunze. That's the way that this has to be. So that's how I would go about it, probably. Actually, no. This is how you have to do it, actually. You have to trade Kraft away. You cannot drop him, and you cannot roster 3 tight ends. So the way that you should probably go about this, Major Arms, is you need to find someone who wants to take Wan'Dale Robinson and Tucker Kraft and give you something in return, like a wide receiver or maybe even a running back, in which you can cash in there. Then effectively, because you've done that, you'll have Ingram. You can take him off the IR. You'll have him and Goddard, and then effectively drop Leggett to then take Anthony Richardson off IR, and then eventually pick up a defense. So you got to make some moves. Otherwise, you're in major trouble because you're kind of stuck in purgatory with all the IR players. Sorry, I also have Geno. So Geno, I mean, at that point, Geno can be dropped. Oh God, you can't drop Minnesota's defense. Yo, yeah, you need to start making moves in terms of trades. You have to trade Tucker Kraft away. If you can't do it tonight, you have to just hold. And then you have to wait until Ingram or Anthony Richardson either sustain the IR significance and stay in that position, or then at that point, you got to just start burning players off your bench, which again, I mentioned the order earlier. So you're in a really tough spot, but a trade is going to heal it all, assuming you can get it done to where you're sending away those players that, again, you don't require to have on your team going forward. The reason why I was laughing when Major Arms, I was reading the questions, because I figured out the Washington Commanders mascot this weekend is named Major Tutty, and it's literally a pig with a helmet, like a war helmet. It's a war pig, literally. Can you imagine? I didn't know this until literally on Sunday. Sean Anthony says, PPR, I got offered Lamb for London. Yep, we'll take it. Yeah. Thank you very much. Shake their hand, give them a kiss on the forehead. Thank you very much. Throw some holy water on them, whatever you got to do. Take Lamb, keep it moving. Chief sends in a question, says half PPR, drop Ford / Allen for Chandler and Tracy. I'm okay with that. Again, I don't plan on playing Ford ever again. Braylon Allen is not very much so a startable option either. I think he's just a handcuff in this circumstance, so that's what we'll just keep it as. Sprinkles276 says in a PPR versus Nico, owner averaging 25 points over me per week, start Kenneth Walker, Chuba Hubbard, London Flowers, Deontay Johnson, sit Dobbins, Wicks, and Wan'Dale. I mean, look, at this point, I think Wan'Dale Robinson is very difficult to sit in any circumstance, but considering the Washington matchup, Flowers has to play. It's Kirktober, so London has to play. Chuba's a monster, Kenneth Walker's a beast, and Deontay Johnson taking on the Atlanta Falcons under the assumption that they're going to be in a negative game script the entire time. I could justify playing Wan'Dale Robinson in his place because of the Cincinnati matchup, which honestly, by the time we get to tomorrow's rankings, I might have him over him. So that's the only thing that I could potentially see myself changing. Elsewhere, did you say trade Pittman / Kirk for Debo? I got an ad. Yes, if you can, that's the move. You got an ad. That's so unfortunate. Bad timing. Eduardo M sends in a question. Says, I need a roster advice. I'm currently 1 of 4, 12 team, half PPR. Mahomes, Hall, Cook, McBride, Evans, Higgins, Hubbard, Odunze. Bench is Leggett, Conklin, Chandler, Yoshi Voss. Okay, Yoshi Voss can be dropped. Leggett can be dropped. We're hitting the waivers, and we're hitting it hard. At this point, you need a quarterback. You pick up Kirk Cousins. I don't want to use your number 2 waiver on it, but you're 1 and 4. You need some juice. You need some life into this team. So Cousins, Hall, Cook, McBride, Evans, Higgins, Hubbard. I think that's a pretty good starting lineup going forward here for you, Eduardo. Thank you. Sean sends in a question, says, what's up, man? Should I prioritize Jacoby Myers, Tank Bigsby, or Khalil Shakir? Out of the 3, I'd prioritize Jacoby Myers. Not going to start any of them just to roster. Look, I think in terms of who has the the most value rest of the season, it's Myers. Myers in a full PPR has the most value and is the best potential trade option considering Devontae's never going to play another snap for the Raiders again. Cisco Billy says, got offered Kamara / Pittman for Montgomery and BTJ. Is this a stupid statement to make? I think I'd rather have BTJ and Montgomery. Yeah, I don't trust Pittman because I don't trust Anthony Richardson. So that's where I'm at right now. Thank you. Moving on to Roy Shaver, who says, long question in the chat. All right, Roy. Let's hope we can find it, shall we? How long have we been here for, by the way? Okay, an hour. Not bad. Roy Shaver says, with Kelsey on bye, I need a tight end in my 14-team half PPR, half point per rushing attempt, 1 point per rushing first down, 1 point per 40 receiving yards, 2 points per 40 receiving yards league. Looking at Ingram, Taysom Hill, Conklin on waivers. As of right now, if you can get Ingram, he is the most valuable tight end of the three. And based on what earlier today, the statements that were made by Doug Peterson saying that Ingram is most likely going to play this week, that's the direction that I would lean in. I'd like to have Ingram rest the season. Even if you're only going to play him just this week, understand that Ingram provides enough value and enough of a value proposition via trade for the future to where you can ship him off and gain value from it. So Ingram's the guy that I pick up in this circumstance, Roy. Thank you for the question. It's not a long question, trust me. I've seen today there have been some very long questions for circumstance, and I'm glad you guys give me all the context because it does make it easier. Richie Lou says, look. Okay, so it says, okay, so see below. Okay, let me go ahead and go back into the chat, Richie. Control F, Richie. Richie Lou says, I traded Aaron Jones and George Pickens for Bijan and Wan'Dale Robinson. Cool, perfect. Olave and ETN for Marvin Harrison. Yep, no issue with that. Again, listen, as a whole, considering circumstance of team, record, everything, Bijan's an upgrade. Wan'Dale Robinson is honestly an upgrade from George Pickens, especially in a full PPR. Then the matter of shipping away ETN, Olave, the circumstances that are in, sure, they may get better over time, but so will Marvin Harrison, and it's honestly just going to heal it. It's fine. Yeah. I think, again, going forward, when desperate times call for desperate measures, you just got to, you got to send it. And I think in this circumstance, you did, and you did well. Thank you. Brian sends in a question. Says in a 10-team full PPR, we have Josh Allen, Aaron Jones, Mason, Reed, Moore, Kelsey, Deontay Johnson, Swift, Dowdle, Lazard, Downs, Quentin Johnston, Addison, Otten, McCaffrey, Chubb. Any drops or upgrades? I'm 3-2 CeeDee Lamb owner. Wants Kelsey, love, and love the content. Oh, I thought he wants Kelsey and love. Okay. Thanks, Brian. So the CeeDee Lamb owner wants Kelsey. Okay, great. So, I mean, he can have Kelsey. You just give him Kelsey and Deontay Johnson for Lamb, and we'll be happy with it. Thank you very much. Handshake, and we'll be done. No, honestly, if you can get CeeDee Lamb off of him by sending away Kelsey, you should. At this point, you can live with Otten. I mean, honestly, I think as the weeks progress, there will be more and more tight ends that come out of nowhere. Like just, Tucker Kraft, 2 weeks in a row, boom, boom, immediate plays. Like those kind of guys are going to show up as we progress going forward. But yeah, if you can try to get Lamb off his team by giving him a wide receiver and a tight end, I don't mind it. If it has to be a 2-for-2, so be it. Take whatever tight end he has. Maybe you send DJ Moore and Kelsey, and you take a Lamb and whatever tight end he has. I don't know who he has on roster. Thank you. Levant, thank you very much. Levant, did you send in a super like on the video today? I think I got a notification on my phone. It says, Levant, wide receivers are Chase, Diggs, Shaheed, and JSN. Then my running backs are Kenneth Walker, Chuba Hubbard, Kareem Hunt, Stevenson, White, and Zach Moss. And I'm stuck on who I should use first priority waiver on. We have Juju, Tracy, Bigsby. Okay, looking at what you have in terms of context as a roster as a whole, what I would like to do with your team is trade away so many of these running backs that I'm trading away this week Stevenson, White, and Moss. I'd give away a 3-for-1. Just give me some sort of semblance of a solid running back in return. Legitimately, that's where I'm at. Like, I think you've got just you have 6 running backs. You don't need 6. Like 4 can be sustainable. And then at that point, you just go pick up Juju and you kind of reassure your wide receiver depth. Or you could theoretically use your waiver priority on a Tracy or a Bigsby and also ship them away. But again, in the long run, Stevenson, White, Moss, Bigsby, Tracy, they're all tradable options. That's what you should look at them as. They're not startable. Or they can be in certain circumstance. Kareem Hunt on a bye week, I get it. But we're trying to use them as trade fodder in order to try to get something in return. Preferably running backs that actually can have sustainable value for the remainder of the season that haven't played well. David Garcia says, traded BTJ for Amari Cooper. Hopefully Cooper to KC. I think that's very much so wishful thinking. I think you've given up way too much, unfortunately. If Amari Cooper doesn't get traded, you have just made a cardinal sin, which is trading away a very good football player for one that is unfortunately attached to Deshaun Watson. Maz Space says, drop Mahomes for Geno? I can't drop anyone else. Yeah, I mean, it's either you win this week or you lose this week. And if that's what it requires, then yeah, you pick up Geno. Alex S says Debo and Najee Harris for A.J. Brown and Eckler, 10-man league. So you'd be getting back A.J. Brown, I assume. If that's the case, in a PPR, I'm okay with it. The Jeek 22 says, in a 10-team full PPR, my Mason for Tyreek Hill. Other running backs are Bijan, Hunt, Najee, Ford, Algier. Do you have Christian McCaffrey? If not, no, that's fine. If you can get Tyreek Hill for Mason right now, then you take the deal right now, immediately. Let's get it done. Fantastic. Considering your roster, the way that it looks, you can survive without Mason. You don't have McCaffrey, and you get Tyreek Hill, which once he comes back at a full capacity, really helps your team. Thank you. KB says Caleb over Josh Allen at quarterback this week. I don't like London games that much, but technically Caleb Williams does have the best matchup at the position in regards to quarterback passing statistics allowed thus far this season. The Jacksonville Jaguars defense is awful. They insist on playing man-to-man coverage the vast majority of the time, and they cannot cover. So yeah, we're good to go. Moving on to Edgar, who says, Lost Rice, trade Monty for A.J. Brown. If you can get A.J. Brown for David Montgomery, you're a legend, Edgar. If you could do it, absolutely. Aaron Yeager sends in a question. The classic all-knowing character that ruined the... I mean, listen, man. I'm going to be honest. That last season, I don't know what they're thinking. That is some interesting anime. Full PPR, should I trade Brees and Pickens for AJ and JK? Yes, I'll take AJ Brown and JK Dobbins over Brees Hall and George Pickens rest season full PPR. Thank you. YG says, is Leggett a decent play this week? I don't know. Is he healthy? That's the question. Atlanta's defense, again, can be exploited, but it's just a matter of, is he healthy enough? And he's going to get enough opportunity in a potential shootout. That's the whole thing. I don't know if he is. We move on to, let's see here. Amon's question, who says, need to drop one. We have Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith. Geno gets dropped. Thank you. Lulu11 sends in a question. Thank you, Lulu. Says James Conner for Kenneth Walker. Yeah, absolutely. I also have Mason and Barkley. Yeah, so your roster is good to go. Like, okay, now, hear me out, Lulu. If there's a potential in which you have Christian McCaffrey, then you keep Mason. But if they're willing to take Mason for Walker, that's the preferred of the potential options. Now, if that is not in the realm of possibility, I'd absolutely give away Connor in order to get Kenneth Walker in return. Yes, thank you. Major Arm says, which wide receivers or running backs do we target in the craft deal? I mean, look, if you're trying to, looking across the board here, of potential wide receivers who you can theoretically trade for that aren't huge names, the names that you'd actually go after, theoretically, I'm going to keep mentioning them. They are huge names, but I'm still going to keep mentioning them. Deebo Samuel's number one. Devontae Smith is number two. I'd be interested in the potential of going after a Tyreek Hill. Outside of that, then we're in the conversation of going after players that are still playing well and aren't like falling off completely, which is Zay Flowers. I'd still be in the business of trying to see if I can scoop up a Jalen Waddle, even if you're, depending on your record, of course, if your record is decent. I'd also be in the business of even going after a Devontae Adams, just because I'm looking for long-term investment. Now, if your roster is at a 1-4, 2-3 record, and you can't afford to go after Hill, Waddle, or Devontae Adams, again, Devontae Smith, Deebo Samuels of the world are the preferred. If not, if you have to literally go after anybody else, it's going to be really difficult for a lot of these other alternative options. Unless you're going after, I mean, shoot, looking at the board, you're not going to get one of the top tier players, not with that kind of a trade bargain. You'd have to go after... You honestly might have to go trade for Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers, Brandon Ayuk, George Pickens, something like that. Thank you. Rusty Wright says, master plan posted in the chat. Please critique. Thank you. All right, let me see, Rusty. All right, Rusty says, my plan is to drop the Seattle defense, 2 waivers for Dowdle or Bigsby. Prioritize Dowdle. If JT is healthy, drop Sermon to pick up a new defense. But if JT is hurt, keep Sermon, drop Freiermuth, backup tight end of Kincaid to get a defense. Yep, that works. Perfect. Again, listen, if you guys are going to drop a defense today because your defense isn't in a good matchup, do not feel so obligated to have to pick up a defense before Sunday, especially if you're waiting for a player to be designated in or out because of their injury. Like, you give yourself an extra roster spot by dropping a kicker or a defense in which you can continue to roster players until the determination of their health is designated to the public. So great strategy. That's how it's supposed to be done, Rusty. Thank you. And Rusty just broke my computer because the chat won't update. Never mind. It's fixed. It's not you, Rusty. It's my computer just bricking out. Let's see here. We had a question that comes in from Bed Bosch, who says, I'm currently 1-4. Okay, so I see there's about like 5 or 6 more questions that were sent in via Super. I'm going to answer these, and then that's where we're going to call it, because that'll be about an hour and a half into the stream, okay? Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so continuing on. Here we go. So we had Bed Bosch says 1-4. I just traded Breece Hall for JT. Beautiful. I'm perfectly fine with that. I have Cup. Okay. Planning this. Okay. So JT better be healthy. But even if he, let's say, for example, isn't this week, and you get Cup and JT back next week, that's the resurgence plan. You're pretty much just then at that point trying to win out for the remainder of the year. My only concern with that strategy, let me look at the Colts schedule here. Hopefully they have a late bye week, and then at that point you'll be fine. They do have a late bye week. Yeah, that's it. That's the play. You're good to go there. I don't have an issue with that. Victor Blanco says, oh, also your next question, Bed Bosch, was who should I target? Rome, Dobbs, Dare Agumbawale, or Taysom Hill? I mean, if you're looking for someone that you can start theoretically this week, if Dobbs comes back, that's who you want. Otherwise, it's Derek Agumbawale number 2. Thank you. Victor Blanco says, trades, ? And who do I drop? We have Josh Allen, Chuba Hubbard, London, Reed, Ayuk, Terry, Kraft. Oh, this is going to be tough. J.K. Worthy, Kirk, Wicks, Dell, Waiver. Okay, geez Louise. So at this point, considering what you have on roster and what it is potentially available, I don't think you can actually make a drop here. Yeah, you don't make a drop here. Now, you could theoretically go out tonight, Victor, and try to trade a 2-for-1, sending away like J.K. Dobbins and Christian Kirk, or J.K. Dobbins and Worthy, and you go try to buy in on the potential of buying low on a running back candidate, Breece Hall, etc., Bijan Robinson's, or you go after Deebo Samuels of the world. But if you can't do any of those, I think I just drop Wicks for Mooney, and that's it. That's the only thing that I'd be willing to do in that circumstance. Victor, thank you. Travis Knott says, do I even consider Rattler or May if desperate? In their first starts ever, Rattler playing against Tampa Bay and May playing against Houston, I don't, unless you're in a super flex. Thank you. Anthony C says, drop Ladd or Wicks for a defense. Streamer PPR. Oh, God. Wicks can't catch the ball. That's his issue. So, and Dobbs coming back just makes it that much more easier to make him a droppable candidate in this circumstance. Thank you. Trevor Augustus says, I'm 2-3 in a 10-team PPR. Fields, Breece, Montgomery, Jacobs, Chase Brown, Jonathan Brooks. Okay, pretty solid running backs. Garrett Wilson, Deebo, BTJ, Worthy, Rome, Dell, McBride. Only one flex. How do I tier up? I mean, look, at this point, the way that I see it, okay, Breece, Montgomery, and Jacobs are your guys. Those are your 3 running backs. If Chase Brown has a possibility of where he takes over the backfield by a significant margin this week, okay, then at that point, in the future, I could feel comfortable trading away a Montgomery for a wide receiver upgrade. But until something of that nature happens, you're pretty solid, in my opinion, across the board. Like, I don't think having Garrett Wilson, BTJ, and Deebo is a bad thing. I don't think having Breece Hall, Montgomery, and Jacobs going forward is a bad thing. McBride, Fields, like, these are great players across the board. But if Chase Brown steps up, that is when you start to pivot. Now, if you're thinking, well, I'm worried about Devontae Adams with Garrett Wilson, you could try to get out of Garrett Wilson right now. Absolutely. Go find somebody that wants to give you, I mean, shoot, you take Garrett Wilson and Chase Brown, I'm sure somebody's going to give you a top, like literally top wide receiver. Neighbors, maybe? I don't know. But that's if you want to cash in now with no hesitation kind of thing. Kaw sends in a question. Says, Deebo, Swift, Godwin, Dobbins, Deebo, Swift, Godwin, Dobbins. Who would you drop? We can't trade any? If we can't trade any, honestly, I'm dropping Dobbins. Thank you. Major Arm says, what's your view on Zay Jones' return? Nah. I mean, is he going to play more than Michael Wilson? I doubt it. So I'm not too, I don't put too much stock into it. Lamosity says, so did the Patriots head coach wake up and think, let's screw over every Stevenson owner? First loss because starting Gibson. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know if that's what he thought. I mean, here's the thing, right? Technically, Gibson was a starter. But at the end of the game, they saw that Ramondre was cooking because he is the better running back. And technically, I'm almost convinced that him and the sports books have a deal in place and they fucked everybody. Until then, honestly, if I'm the league, I'm making an investigation. That's all I'm saying. If I'm the league, I'm investigating it. Jorge Perez sends in the final question of the day before we close out today. Thank you again, guys, for supporting the channel. Jorge says, hi, Andrew. In a full PPR, team is Love, Kamara, Mason, Jennings, Wicks, Kyron, Andrews. 49ers defense, Joshua Carty, who can be replaced because he's on bye and had a terrible week because every time they were third and long, the Rams got sacked and got knocked out of field goal range. Fantastic. That's why we lose games. Anyway, bench is Devontae Smith. We have Braylon Allen, Chase Brown, Charbonnet, Kareem, Odunze, Hurts. What changes should I make? I mean, do you have Jalen Hurts on your bench? If you have Jalen Hurts on your bench, he should be your starting quarterback, and Jordan Love should be traded. Jennings should not be in your lineup. I'm confused as to how this lineup is set up. Like, Jalen Hurts and Devontae need to start, right? So it's Jalen Hurts, Devontae, Kamara, Mason, Kyron. I mean, it feels like your team you're like stuck in week 5. Like, you need to just re-rack this a little bit. Now, as for how we approach going forward, again, Kamara, Mason, Chase Brown, those are your 3 starting running backs this week. Devontae Smith, alongside of, if your best other wide receiver is Wicks, we're probably in a little bit of trouble, and maybe we take Chase Brown this week and we try to go trade it for a wide receiver of some sort of capacity. Thank you. All right, Ira is the final question of the day. Coming in real quick. Devontae Smith, Leggett, Braylon Allen. Who do I drop for Tank? Who do you drop for Tank Dell? Oh, between the two of them, if you don't have Breece Hall, I drop Braylon Allen. Going back to your question, Jorge Perez. So, yeah, I mean, look, you can keep Jordan Love technically, but I mean, again, Jalen Hurts is off of his bye. So you have Jalen Hurts. You can trade Love. You don't need Jennings anymore. He can be dropped. Carter needs to be dropped. At this point, like, your most valuable prospects are like Love and Kareem Hunt that are theoretically tradable, and that's what I'm trying to look to move. Try to move those two and see if you can get back a running back in exchange or potentially a wide receiver. Thank you. All right, guys. Yeah. D-Wicks, I know that's not Tavion. Ira. So, yeah, between the 3 of them, if you don't have Breece, that is a drop. Okay, guys. Again, if you guys haven't checked out today's running back video, check it out. If you haven't checked out Underdog Fantasy, again, you can sign up today using code Andrew, get my rankings every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season. There's a link down in the description. If potentially you're not eligible based on the location, the code, you've used it in the past on the VAT exchange. You can also check out Patreon where you can get unlimited questions answered. And of course, Thursday and Sunday rankings. So those are the alternative options to get my rankings over the course of the season. Or again, you don't have to do either of those two. You can join the live streams, ask questions. You can, of course, wait for Sunday morning rankings, all that kind of jazz going in your direction. Best of luck on your upcoming waivers. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the support. Outside of that, Andrew's going to peace out here an hour and 22 minutes into the stream. Much love. I'll be back tomorrow with wide receiver rankings and, of course, another waiver. No, scratch that. Another live stream tomorrow night, probably same time, 7 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We're queuing the double helix. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.